This one's a bonus tutorial. I'm going over a quick way to create a base mesh and a rig that you can animate and play around with in Blender. The Blender Rigify add-on is far more powerful than Duik in After Effects, so I strongly encourage you to experiment with this and have some fun, because this will be a lot of fun to mess around with. So we're going to start off on the splash screen. I'm going to click General, and I'm going to delete this cube by hitting X, delete. I'm going to use these add-ons. So to add them, it's Edit, Preferences, Add-ons. The first one is called Skinify. So you click that on. And the second one is Rigify. So I turned on Skinify Rig and Rigging Rigify. Once you enable those, hit Save and Load, and you're all set. I'm going to press the N key to turn on my screencast. Now you can see my keystrokes. Okay, so I'm going to do Shift A. Sorry, that was Control A. I'm going to do Shift A to add an armature, animals, cat. So that was Shift A, armature, animals, cat. And there is my basic rig for a cat-shaped animal. We're in object mode. This is where you place new shapes and move them around and transform them. I'm going to switch over to pose mode because I've got a character rig. Once I'm in pose mode, now to use Skinify, you must be in pose mode. So make sure you're in pose mode. You get there through the drop-down menu once you have your character rig in there. So now I'm going to hit the N key to pull up my side menu. I'm going to go to Create, and then there's a Skinify Rig tab. I'm going to hit the Add Shape button right here. And now I've got a basic mesh over top of my rig. I'll show you what that means. So here is my rig over here. You can see all the different stuff to it. And then here is my base mesh, which looks like a chain link of sausages. I'm going to undo that because I got some bones I did not want to use. So I'm in pose mode. I'm back here. The bones I do not want, I'm deselecting like that. So I didn't want that one, and I did not want that one. And I'm happy with the rest of them. So I'm going to do the same thing. Add shape, hide my rig, and see now I don't have those weird bones sticking out. My mesh is selected. If it wasn't, I'd have to hit Control A to select it. I'm going to hit Control A to bring up the Apply menu. I'm going to hit Control A to bring up the Apply menu and choose Visual Geometry to Mesh. And that's going to turn this into a mesh. And it also applies modifiers that were put in the modifier stack once we did the Skinify. So that's basically just cleaning this up and making it a shape that we can work with. Next, we're going to go to Sculpt Mode right here. There are several ways that we can inflate this and make it more joined. And the main tip here, we want this, it has to be thicker than our rig. Okay, so it's like meat on top of the bones. So just make sure every part is thicker than the rig that you're adding to this. So remember, you can always drag out here to see the names of the tools. I strongly encourage this. Some of the main sculpting tools are clay strips that adds volume to your geometry. Inflate is the one we're going to be using. Then some other useful ones are creases. That's for pushing down and inwards. And grab is right here. Grab is for like nudging things around and moving them, whereas the snake hook will extend the geometry. Grab will not do that. It'll help you push and pull things around, but the snake hook will actually extend the geometry and make it longer. So when you're in sculpt mode, here's your two hotkeys. F changes the size of your brush. You click and drag your mouse to do that, to change the size of the brush. And Shift F changes the strength of your brush. Normally, you want a small strength, like 0.18 or 0.2. I'm doing a stronger strength so that I can inflate this character quicker. This right here, the screwdriver and the wrench, that is your workspace panel. And this is where you can edit more settings in your sculpt brush. I'm going to twirl down symmetry and click Mirror X. So what I do to this side of the body, it'll do to the other side of the body, and it will be symmetrical. So again, that's the wrench and screwdriver icon, your workspace properties panel. And I went down to symmetry and I did Mirror X. I'm going to go to Inflate. Now, you noticed I started here and then I did a couple strokes there. The reason I'm doing that is I want the legs to have more support. So I'm adding more volume up there. Same as up here, there'd be more meat to move the body. I'm just making sure I've got enough to cover my bones. I'm going to give this a little bit more body right there. And I held down my shift key, as you saw. That tail's a little too thick. All right, that's a little better. And you can scroll around and look and see where you've got to inflate some more. Now, when you get to the head, it's going to get a little tricky because there's negative space at the head. I'm using my mouse wheel to see more brush options. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try my mask brush right here. I'm going to want to mask the eyes. The mask says, don't change this area. And it gets a little darker, parts that I am drawing on. I don't want the eyes to get filled in. So I just mask those out a little bit. That's what that does. I'm also going to do the same for the inside of the ear. I held down Shift to remove the part of the mask I added that I did not want to add. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my Inflate brush, and I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. See, now we've got a neck. Let's have that join the body a little bit more. It always helps to have a pop-up window with a reference here, but I'm just doing this blindly based on my needs. So I'm just filling in the face a little bit. And you see, I've got my holes by my eyes a little bit. So I'm going to want to fix that a little bit. The Control key does the opposite. So I'm going to go to my mask again and remove that mask now. Going down Shift. Shift, get rid of that. Now I'm going to try the crease tool to try and bring the insides of the eyes inward a little bit, like drag them down. Nope, don't want to do that. So let's try doing the opposite of Inflate. Use my Inflate. If I hold down Control, that was it. See how holding down Control deflated that? Just fill in this area right here. Good. Now, the back of the head and the ears. I'm going to need to fill in. So for this, I'm going to try the snake. Oops. Let me zoom in a little bit. Make this a little smaller. And then I'll inflate that a little bit. Just to fill it in. Let's check out the front. Make sure we still have the holes in the ears. Yep, we do. Let me just inflate that a little bit. Okay, good. And then right here by the jaw, I'm going to need to fill that in. Make my brush a little bigger. Fill in that shape. I'm not going for perfect. I'm just filling in so that I can have a character. Yep, okay, that's all filled in. And the eyes, once more, I'm holding down Control to deflate those eyes, open them back up. Shrink down my brush. Good. All right, I'm happy with that. Yeah, okay, that's usable. So we've got our base mesh established. At this point, I'm going to turn back on my rig to make sure my bones are covered. See, these need to be a little bit thicker there. So I'm going to click on my mesh with my Inflate brush, make those joins a little bit bigger. Had to cover up that tail part a little bit. And we're going to ignore those bones I did not inflate. There we go, that's better. All right, I'm happy with that. Turn back off my rig. At this point, I'm going to save. So now we're going to go to edit mode, and you can see the geometry we've got. I'm going to press A to select it all, P, separate by loose parts. And now I've got different shapes to my creature with a little bit of geometry issues here. So I'm going to go to my vertice select. That's the number 1 key. Select these. I'm going to try and push them down a little bit. GZ. There we go. That's a little better. Right there. And then I'm going to fix this one and this one. I'm going to push them down. GZ. Okay. It's looking a little better. And I'll fix this up. I did a double tap G to slide it along the geometry to the nearest vertice. So I clicked on the little drop down here, and this opened up the View Shading tab. I'm going to be Studio, and under Color, I'm going to choose Random. Now I can see the color of each shape. So I'm going to go back to Sculpt Mode. Right next to Dying Topo, that's Dynamic Topology, I'm going to want ReMesh. I'm going to change my voxel size to 0.01. I'm going to click on Fix Poles. And I'm going to click on Preserve Volume. Then I'm going to click the ReMesh button. So all I did was change the voxel size to 0.01, adaptivity 0. Fix Poles is on, Preserve Volume is on. I'll hit the ReMesh button. So we just did, I'm going to go back to Object Mode. There's our rig, and here is our base mesh. I'm hiding my rig. I'm going to select my whole character, and I hit CTRL J to make it one mesh. Call that cat base mesh. Here's my rig. I'm going to go back up to Studio and change it from random color to material. That's just the drop down right here. I make this tail just a tad longer. I'm going to turn on my X-ray mode. So I just did a grab and a scale. I'll go out of my edit mode, turn off X-ray. That's a little better. I got a little funkiness here, but I'm not going to sweat that. At this point, I'm just going to double check that my bones are lined up with my mesh. So I'm going to click on my rig, click on the green running person icon above the green bone. I'm going to twirl down Viewport Display. I'm going to click on In Front. So now I can see my bones, and I want to make sure they're centered on the limbs, and they're looking pretty good because we did Inflate. That was a quick cheat. So our rig is lined up, so I'm fine with that. If you need to reposition bones, you would select one of them like this, where you would go to Edit Mode, and then you would do G to grab or R to rotate. So you got to be in Edit Mode to change the bones, but we're good. So now I'm in Object Mode. I've got my rig selected. I'm going to do Control A, and I'm going to apply all transforms. My mesh, Control A, apply all transforms, just to avoid any issues down the road. So I'm in Object Mode. I'm going to apply the Rigify here. I select my rig, not the mesh. I go back to the green running person icon. I twirl down the Rigify section, and I'm going to click on Generate Rig right here. And right there says Successfully Generated Rig. Now we can see our rig. I'm going to hit Save. I'm going to go over what these icons do once we're finished parenting our mesh to the rig. So what we're going to do is we're going to parent the mesh to the rig. I'm going to click on the mesh first, right here, cat base. The meta rig right here, I'm going to hide that. See, that's our rig, the one with all the fancy icons. That's the one we want. So I hid the original rig we started with. So I select the mesh first. That's going to be the child. Then I shift click on the rig, which is right here. So the child, then the parent. Then I hit Control P on my keyboard, set parent to with automatic weights. That was Control P to get here. Click on the base mesh first, hold down Shift, click on the rig, then it's Control P, set parent to with automatic weights. Now I'm going to hit save. So now to test this out, we're going to go to pose mode. Pose mode is where you animate your character rig. So I'm going to grab the hips, hit G, and it works. Now you have your first character rig created. I hit save. You animate it in pose mode. So now we're going to start thinking about animating. These little red squares, I'm going to hit G. That is your inverse kinematics. Lifting the foot moves the ankle, moves the calf, moves the thigh, and up to the body. These yellow ones, so I did that with G for grab. R for rotate. I can rotate the shoulders up and down to get hunching. And I can grab the body to move it forward or back or up and down. The tail, I can do R. And if you do it strong enough, you'll curl the whole tail. And you can move just parts of the leg with these green arrows. The green circles you leave alone, but these red arrows are for moving part of a limb rather than the inverse kinematics. So that's just to lean forward a little bit. So if you wanted to, you could click on one of these arrows, hit G to grab, then grab the hips and rotate them down with that, like such. So I'm going to undo those two. So now I'm in my resting pose. This is the natural resting pose of the character. I'm going to hit save. And I want to show you just a real quick animating workflow that you can mess around with. So if I move the leg forward, I'm going to hit the N panel. And I'm going to want to be in my transform. I just use my mouse wheel to go from tab to tab, like that, till I'm at my transform. So this front paw, I'm going to hit save. Remember, if you click the auto keyframe, you're going to run into some issues. If I do that, it's going to set a keyframe for everything. So if I want to rotate the shoulder down the road, it's going to start rotating the shoulder at the wrong point because it created a keyframe for it at the beginning. That's why I do all my keyframing independent. So I'm going to show you this and then the right workflow once you figure out what you want to do. So I'm going to hit I for that foot on the transform. I'm going to go forward. I'll do everything by 5 frames just for easy math. Now I'm going to hit G and look at your gizmo. Y is this way. X is closer, further to the camera, and Z is up and down. So I'm going to go G, Y, and move the leg forward. And then I'm going to hit I. Okay. So I've got the paw coming forward. Now I'm going to want the paw to start coming upwards. So I'm going to go to like the midpoint and go G, Z to bring the paw up. And then I'm going to animate I. So now it's coming forward there. Okay. Now, as the paw's coming up, I'm going to want to rotate it. So I'm going to go to here, hit I for rotate, go to the up, hit R now, rotate my paw up, hit I once they turn orange, and once the paw's down, hit R to set it back down, and then hit I to straighten it out. So I've got the paw rotating, the leg moving forward. Then I'm going to focus on the rotating of the shoulders. The shoulders are going to rotate down as the paw comes down. So as the paw comes up, I'm going to select that, hit R. And then once it's down, I'll hit R to rotate those a little bit. And then hit I. So now I've got a little bit of weight happening. So those were the choices I made. Okay. Now the back leg is going to move at the opposite back leg. So I know what I did. I went straight across, then I went up, then I started rotating, then I did my shoulders. I can do all that now that I know the workflow. So I can say right here at the 0, I'm going to do I for rotate because I'm going to be rotating it. I'm going to do I for the location. And then my hips, I'm going to do I for rotate. This will move the body. This is for the hips. So I went forward 5 frames. So I'm going to go here, GY, move the leg forward, hit I because it turned orange. Then I'm going to go to the halfway point. Right about 3. I'm going to go GZ, lift the leg up, hit I, and then I'm going to rotate it because we already put our first keyframes. Going to go to I, then we're going to go to the end where the paw's down, and I'm going to rotate it down and hit I there. So right here on the impact, I can rotate the hips down a little bit, hit I, go up here. So here's our first motion. See, like that. And I can also say, all right, I'm liking this. So right around here, let's make the cat head move. So I'll do I. There's the impact. I'm going to bring the head down a little bit on the impact. And then hit I to accept it over here. That's looking pretty interesting. Let's see what happens if I choose the midpoint at this point, hit I for rotate, go there, and then I'll bring this down a little bit. Choose I. Now I'm going to move this keyframe with the G key. Oops, that's both of them. So I'm going to hit undo. That one. So I hit G, I'll slide down a little bit. That's a little bit of follow through and overlapping action. So now we've got weight happening, a little bit of follow through and overlapping action. So these legs came forward. They're on the ground. Now I'm going to start moving the other legs forward with the same process. So it's going to be this one and this one. So I'm right here at the 5. I'm going to do I for location, I for rotate. And then I'm going to do this one too. I for location, I for rotate. I'm also going to grab my hips. I for rotate, I for rotate. Now, as this leg comes forward, I'm going to want the hindquarters to come with it. So I'm going to do I for position, and that's going to move the body forward. Now I'm going to move forward 5 frames. We'll grab this one and this one, GY. Move them forward, hit I. Let's test that out. See they both work. Good. No, you move the last one. Okay, so I'm going to go to 5. Grab this one. Go to 10. GY, move it forward. Okay, now I'm going to hit I. Okay, good. And I'm going to grab the body. And I'm going to go GY to move it forward. Like that. Hit I to accept it. Let me zoom out a little bit. Now let's check out our motion. See? We got a little bit of that happening. So now I'm going to do the shoulder rotates, which I already keyframed. I'm going to rotate that down a little bit. Rotate that down a little bit. And let's have the head rise up. I for rotate. Go to 10. Bring the head back up. Go a little bit past that for some overlapping action. Grab the neck. Go a little bit past 10. R for rotate. There you have it. A little bit of weight, a little bit of motion, the whole body following through with it. Now to add a little bit of life to the tail. So I'm going to hit I to keyframe that. Move forward. R, bring it down. Hit I. Now with the tail, it's got multiple bends. So I'm going to do a little follow through and overlapping action. I'm going to choose the midpoint right here. I to keyframe it. Go a little bit past there. R to bend it up a little bit. I to keyframe it. So now we got a little bit of a tail motion as we move our cat. So that's a quick explanation of the rotates of the shoulders, moving the hind quarters, the single arrows to move part of a limb if you want, the red squares for inverse kinematics. And that's a good first intro to character rigging. Now, also don't forget, I can go to my viewport, view, and I'm going to use my tilde key, change my view to camera. Now, if I click camera to view, I can animate my camera while moving the character. So I'll go here, and what I do is I click on the camera, go to the orange square here, and now let's animate our camera. So right here in the object panel, it's on the rig. So I'm going to use this drop down and go to my camera. I'm going to press Control A. Didn't really need to do that, so. I'm going to press I for location and rotation, go forward, hit I again, and I was able to do that because under view, I have view camera on. So now you can see the camera moving. Just make sure when you're doing your transforms, you've got the camera chose. Just make sure when you're doing the transforms that the camera is what's chosen. There you go. There's a nice movement to a character mesh and exploring Rigify and Skinify with a little bit of an introduction to the Sculpt brush.